The rain poured over the old village roofs as Clara stood by the wooden door, her heart pounding like a trapped bird. She was only 19, barely, old enough to understand the meaning of marriage, yet tonight she was being given away to a man she had never met. Her parents, once loving and gentle, had grown desperate after losing everything to a bad harvest. The marriage to Samuel, a poor farmer from the outskirts, was not about love, it was survival. The villagers whispered that Samuel lived a hard life on the edge of nowhere, working his calloused hands into the soil just to keep his land. As the small wagon carried Clara through the muddy road toward her new home, her fingers trembled on her faded dress, her heart heavy with fear. The farmhouse appeared through the rain, a small cabin, smoke rising from its chimney. Lonely but somehow peaceful. Samuel stood outside waiting, his hat in his hands, rain soaking through his worn shirt. He didn't smile, but his eyes held something rare, a quiet kindness. "You must be cold," he said softly, taking her small bag from the wagon and leading her inside. She expected coldness, distance, or worse, force. But what he did next stunned her. Instead of claiming her as a husband, Samuel laid a wool blanket by the fire, poured her a cup of warm milk, and said, "You'll sleep near the fire tonight. You're safe here." Clara looked at him, confused. No words could escape her trembling lips. The man she was told to fear, the one called the lonely farmer, was showing her a gentleness she never knew existed. The candle flickered between them, painting golden light across the wooden walls as thunder echoed outside. Samuel didn't ask for anything. He simply sat by the window watching the rain, giving her space to breathe. That night Clara couldn't sleep. The silence of the cabin was filled with questions she couldn't ask. Why would a man so poor, so broken by life, choose kindness when he could have demanded anything? The next morning, sunlight streamed through the cracks in the wooden walls. Samuel was already outside, working in the fields. Clara watched him from the window, his strong hands turning the soil, his shirt soaked with sweat, yet his movements patient, almost humble. When he returned, she had prepared breakfast from the little she found, a piece of bread, some milk and berries. He smiled for the first time, and that small gesture melted the fear in her chest. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You didn't have to." Days turned into weeks, and the small cabin slowly became a home. Samuel never treated Clara like property. He spoke to her as an equal, teaching her how to plant seeds, milk cows, and tend the garden. In return, she read him verses from her old book, her voice soft and healing. The nights they spent together were not filled with passion, but peace, two souls, learning that love doesn't always come with fire. Sometimes it comes like a gentle dawn after a long storm. One evening, when the sky turned gold, Samuel took her to the edge of the field. "I know your parents forced you into this," he said, eyes downcast, "but I want you to know, you're free. You can leave whenever you wish." Clara looked at him, her heart aching at the thought. Leave? The man who treated her with more respect than anyone she had ever known? The man who never raised his voice, never took what wasn't his. She realized then, freedom wasn't just walking away. It was being seen, valued, and loved without demand. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "I don't want to leave." Samuel smiled faintly and nodded, as if he had been waiting for that answer. From that day on, they worked side by side, facing every hardship together. Their farm grew slowly, but so did their bond. When storms hit, they sheltered each other. When drought came, they shared hope instead of despair. And when the first harvest finally bloomed, Clara looked at the golden fields and felt something she never had before, belonging. The villagers who once pitied her now watched with awe. They said the poor farmer had changed her fate. But Clara knew the truth. He had simply given her time to bloom. Years later, when people asked her about her marriage, she would smile and say, "He didn't shock me with wealth or gifts. He shocked me with love." The story of the poor farmer and his innocent bride became a quiet legend in their small village, a reminder that love doesn't need riches or grand gestures. It only needs honesty, patience, and heart. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because every story here is born from real emotion. Stories that remind us that kindness, respect, and true love still exist, even in the most unexpected places. Months passed and the seasons changed. The cold winds faded, replaced by the gentle scent of spring. Clara had grown stronger. Her hands now knew the weight of the plow, the rhythm of the soil, and the peace that came from honest work. Samuel, still quiet and steady, treated her not as a wife forced upon him but as his partner in every breath and battle. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Clara cooked their supper while Samuel sat nearby repairing an old lantern. The silence between them wasn't empty. It was full of unspoken care. "You've made this place alive again," he said softly, glancing at her with eyes full of quiet pride. Clara looked around, the flowers by the window, the laughter of chickens outside, the warmth in her chest, and realized he was right. This simple cabin, once lonely and cold, had become home. That night, when he took her hand for the first time, there was no fear, only trust. No vows were spoken, yet love was sealed in their hearts like a seed planted deep in the earth. From that moment, Clara knew she hadn't been married off to a poor man. She had been given to a rich soul,